and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Is there any public comment from the board?
Not tonight.
Okay, I have a few announcements. The Lunenburg Public Schools invite the Lunenburg community to tour the new building this summer. They have dates available to tour the new middle high school. Dates are the July 2nd, 9th, 14th, and 21st, 23rd, 28th, August 4th, 11th, 13th, 18th, and 27th. There's a URL on the school website where you can pre-register, and the school website is lunenburgschools.net. The town clerk's office will be closed on Wednesday, June 22nd. And as we've gotten in the habit of doing, I'd like to just once again announce vacancies on the various committees in town. There are 3 vacancies on the Personnel Committee. There remains 3 vacancies on the Finance Committee, an important committee. Public Access Cable Committee has 2. Cable Advisory Committee has 1. Stormwater Task Force 1. The Conservation Commission has 1. The Sewer Commission has 1, which is an elected position, which we will appoint until the next election. And then there are several fence viewers. So that's it on our announcements for this evening. Our 7 o'clock appointment is with Lloyd's Limousine Service, 53 Chase Road, on a limousine license application. Please. Please introduce yourself. And
Yeah, Tom Brown.
Hi.
Hi.
So we have our application in front of us. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about your business?
Right, it's just a service of taking people back and forth to the airports. And we have 3 vehicles, but the drivers all keep them at home. So what I'm asking for is a parking space at 53 Chase Road. It's already been inspected by the building inspector and okayed. Just to provide that service based in Lunenburg.
You notice the inspections and insurance, et cetera. I assume that's all in order.
The application is complete.
Yes, thank you. Any questions?
I just want to make sure I understand this. So your business address is listed as a Fitchburg address. So you're looking for, at 53 Chase Road, is there a building or is there just a parking space or what is it?
Just a parking space. The address in Fitchburg is my mailing address.
Okay.
So that'll be the business address would be Chase Road.
Okay, so there is an office there?
There's a parking area there. See, the vehicles are all at the drivers' homes,
Okay,
so we just need a presence in Lunenburg, parking space.
okay.
Customers don't come there, we go to them, so.
I just guess I'm wondering what the advantage is of having a physical, is it a requirement to have a physical location in Lunenburg in order to operate a limousine service?
If you're going to provide this service within the town, you're required to have a license. And in order to have a license, you have to have a place of business within the town.
Okay,
And the property owner is here this evening, Mr. John Baker, and
okay,
I believe in support of the application.
okay.
I don't have any questions. I raised the question just generally about how we regulate taxi cabs and limousines, and I think that's something for a workshop, but not affecting this application.
Have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the limousine license for, requested for 53 Chase Road.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Nope. John wants to.
Absolutely.
Sorry, what?
We skipped over the public comment. I had something to say.
Okay, John.
John Baker, 53 Chase Road, Lunenburg. I wanted to acknowledge a faculty member at the high school here, and her name is Mrs. Bordwell. She heads up the music department there. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with her, but I had a granddaughter that graduated this year, and she was in the music program for 4 years under the direction of Mrs. Bordwell. And I got to tell you, this person is just one of the most outstanding, energetic teachers I've ever seen in my life. She had the marching band, the chorus, well, you name it. She was the head of it. And it's just amazing the job that she did with these kids. And having firsthand experience going to the different events, the football games with the marching band and all that other business that goes along with it, you see the development of the program from when my granddaughter started and when she ended. It's just truly amazing. So I just wanted to, give that girl a kudos to everything she does. And anybody that has an opportunity to go to the school and watch one of these music programs, please go, because it's something to see. Mr. Alonzo is not here tonight, but I've seen him there several times. For whatever reason, he was there. But anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge her, the job that she does. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I share your admiration for the music program at the high school. It's excellent. Both of my children went through band programs from 5th grade through Berkeley. And it's a very impressive program. I did skip over public comment. Is there any public comment from the public?
I called my insurance company.
Okay.
I think which, but I think it's right.
All right, our first business item is the next stamp agreement amendment.
There is a request for you, before you this evening, to amend your existing net metering credit purchase and sale agreement with Nexamp. And Joe Fiore from Nexamp is here to present this request.
Welcome, Mr. Fiore.
Hello all. Good to see you again. As Carrie alluded to, we are requesting to amend the commercial or the construction commencement date and the mechanically complete date, or the commercial operation date. Previously, we had a construction commencement date of July of this year, and I think it was a mechanically complete date of October, and we're just asking to push the construction start date to October this year. I do expect us to be ahead of that, and push the mechanically complete date to December 31st of this year. And again, I do expect us to be ahead of that as well. The reason for this request to extend those two milestones by a couple months is primarily just has to do with the fact that the time that it took to close financing on the project, which is pretty much the critical step you need to take before you can order the equipment and get in the ground. That took a little bit longer, not because of any major hurdle. We had to negotiate the pilot agreement with the town of Fitchburg. That took longer than expected. We were able to sign that this month, and we have closed financing. So, coming to you guys with a positive update, which is that we are all systems go, ready to build this thing over the next couple months. We're just asking to push those dates out to make sure that we can meet them, and that we're going to be ahead of them, rather than something that's going to be really tight for us to hit. So it's not as though we're looking to change any of the material terms. It's just to make sure that we're able to hit those milestones.
Any questions or comments?
I guess my only question is, the July to October is 4 months, and then October to December is only 3.
Yeah, and so, you know, typically these systems take 3 to 4 months from when you receive the equipment to build. We're going to be in the ground before that October construction start date. But rather than try to figure out whether it's September 5th or September 15th, I'm just trying to push it out to make sure that I don't have to come back to you guys, you know, and have to deal with potentially vacations or whatnot, just to make sure that we're darn certain we can hit these dates. The construction process itself, once we get the equipment, it's quick, as I said, it's 3 to 4 months. When we get in the ground, and that's why there's that jump from July to October, is dependent upon when we get the transformers and the heavy machinery at the site, and that's where there's less certainty. So I'm just trying to, you know, basically create enough buffer to make sure we're gonna be able to hit it.
So you may start before October?
We will start before October 31st. You know, and whether or not that is, you know, basically grading and site erosion controls, or substantial construction, which is what that definition, as they define it, substantial construction, is kind of to be seen. But we will have started to get crews on site and start to grade the site and get it ready for installation of the actual equipment. So it's just to make sure that we're going to hit that definition as it's written in the contract, which is substantial deployment of construction activities.
So you'll be more ready to roll.
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
I would make a motion that we approve the First Amendment as described.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thanks.
Alrighty. Our next item is to set a date for a special town meeting and opening the warrant.
At your last meeting, you decided that you would like to call a special town meeting sometime this summer for the purpose of taking up a couple of power purchase agreements, which we hope to have negotiated in time for the meeting. So we put together a schedule. We proposed 2 different dates. Both of them are in August. The first would be Monday, August 8th. The second would be Monday, August 29th. We are required to provide 14 days notice, so that between providing the notice, having the warrant mailed out to residents 14 days prior, and then building in some time to print and get the warrant to the post office, that really eats up a lot of time. I know in speaking with John Londa, he would like to, his preference would be to have the special town meeting as early as possible, as would mine. I think we can do something for Monday, August 8th. We certainly can't do it sooner, and it is very tight doing it for August 8th. We would be looking in either case to establish the date tonight, to open the warrant, and to leave the warrant open for a period of 1 week. Again, the August 8th date would give us very little time to review the warrant articles, but these, for the most part, we're not expecting any surprises in the warrant articles. We've prepared those before, so we don't expect there to be much of a legal review. We do have 2 power purchase agreements that we are working on right now. One of them, I think, is closer to being in a final form than the other, but we will continue to move forward. Other possible items would be, the planning board does have one item to amend the site plan approval bylaw. We may also have the request for the APR, the Agricultural Preservation Restriction, ready for that. I'm not sure that we would have anything else, but when we open the warrant, anybody can submit anything, so there may be something that pops up.
I would move that we hold the special town meeting on August 8th.
We have a second?
I guess I just would question why the August 8th versus the 29th. Is there?
Do you, maybe John would like to provide some comment on why August 8th versus August 29th?
So both the power purchasing agreement for the solar for the Department of Public Works garage and the middle school, high school, and the Borrego net metering agreement, all of those are really predicated upon these being completed in this calendar year.
Okay.
So the sooner the better. We are looking at the potential of trying to do letters of intent to at least show that we intend to enter these types of agreements to allow some work to continue forward on the engineering side.
I would second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so
Mr.
August
Chairman,
8th, yes.
I do have one other question. If the meeting is August 8th, is there, why only 1 week for the warrant to be open?
Because we need to have town council review the warrant articles, and it makes it difficult if things are coming in late. We don't always have the appropriate amount of time to have the warrant articles reviewed.
Are you concerned that
Well,
other
I
people
just,
might have
I'm just
articles, or-
concerned that only if, I think if we're going to go through the expense and the exercise of a special town meeting, I'd like to give people, if they do have something, give them ample notice and ample opportunity to present those articles. And I think that 7 days is very tough to have that warrant open. But the town manager indicated we don't have anything. I'm just looking at the lag time between, June 28th and July 12th.
We do need to have any warrant articles that are submitted or required to be presented to the Board of Selectmen for review and recommendation. If there's a financial impact to the Finance Committee for review and recommendation. I mean, I think we probably have a few more days, but we don't have.
I know we
a
don't have
lot.
a full week, but even just 7 days, I think personally, I think that's too short to have the warrant open.
Will we have another town meeting in the fall?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I
Exactly.
think that, we know that there are 2, maybe 3 items that we need to address in order to meet Mr. Londa's deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
And there happens to be a planning board one that we may or may not, but we still plan on. We still plan on having, one in the fall.
We do?
Yeah.
What's the cost of a town meeting?
I would say $1,500 and up. It really depends. The big cost is the warrant. So if it's, we expect the warrant to be
Fairly late.
pretty minimal. But if the warrant is larger, then the
And
cost
is there
goes
something
up.
in particular that you feel that we'll have to have a special town meeting in the fall for? I mean, $1,500 and up it's not a lot of money,
Mhm.
but it's still money that is coming from somewhere else. And I'm just trying to understand, getting to 3 town meetings in a calendar year is extreme. I mean, so I'm just trying to understand, there have been years when we haven't had a special town meeting in the fall. Do you believe that it's going to be necessary to have that special town meeting, or we're going to have to see what happens, with the budget?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not convinced that we need to have one yet, but the state budget has not been approved.
Right.
I don't expect the state budget will be resolved in a way that will require us to cut our budget. That would be the primary. I did check with the land use director. He does not believe that the planning board would have anything additional ready, even if we had a meeting between Halloween and Thanksgiving. I'm not aware of any other items right now.
Okay, so we may or may
think-
not have one in the fall.
I think the way I view it, and we had this discussion last week, and I was concerned about the expense as well, but I think the exception is this one, the one that we're talking about in August. I feel that we probably have a better chance of having one in the fall, but we made the exception and agreed that it was worth the $1,500 to $2,000 to have this one because we had made a commitment at the last town meeting to bring power purchase agreements back to town, and we didn't have till November to do that. So I agree that I wouldn't want to set a precedent of having, getting three town meetings.
Right.
But by the same token, I think that there's a good possibility we'll have business to do in the fall, and that the exception was to try to fit one in August so that we can meet the deadlines for the power purchase agreement.
Okay.
Now, I wasn't at the last meeting. Are we trying to rethink this situation so that we don't have to come back for a special town meeting if this comes up again?
I have a preference that when we discuss this again, the authority that we believe we had once and then confirmed it at the last town meeting and then agreed to go back, I'd like to be crystal clear this time around that when a situation like this occurs, we have the authority to go ahead and not only negotiate, but to execute a power purchase agreement. Obviously with the utmost of transparency, but not to have to call a town meeting every time if there's a deadline involved with.
Right. It's expensive and it's cumbersome, and if we can avoid it.
And I would disagree. I would say that we may need to go back to town meeting because solar in people's backyards is a major issue. So I think that's part of what my reason why supporting coming back to town meeting was there. This, I think, is different because it's going on a town building, but it's still a power purchase agreement. So we'll still have that discussion about whether we'll go back or not.
Right, and I think that's a healthy discussion, and it can only happen at a town meeting. I mean,
So I don't have a problem with it. The only article that I can think that may come up is the architectural preservation. If you recall, the wording hadn't been finalized. We had the chairman of the
Agricultural Committee.
Agricultural Committee had an article that they ended up not presenting. They may want to bring that back. And I would certainly let them know that we're having this meeting so that they have ample opportunity to do that.
right.
So I guess I don't have a huge problem with it. I just think if we could open the warrant for even a few more days, personally, I would prefer it. Because if there are other things that are going to come up, I'm not as confident that we'll have a meeting in the fall. And I think unless there's a real impetus to do that, I don't think it's necessary. So I do want to give anybody who would like to present something an opportunity to do so at this meeting. And I think 7 days is not long enough to be open.
So if we can easily extend it to the 30th. That's just 2 more days. If you're looking for more than that, through the end of the day on Tuesday, July 5th, that could be the deadline. I can't see, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to move it past that from a putting it together.
Well,
If you have to have legal review it, you've got July 4th vacations and other things like that. So, I think June 30th would be as far as I'd be
Yeah.
willing to go at this point.
Yeah, and I would agree with that.
Okay.
and if the Board of Selectmen have to review it, the earliest we can do that is the 5th, so that seems to make sense to, right?
Yeah.
So if we could buy 2 days on that.
Yeah, so it would probably be best if you made a motion to.
I would move that we open the warrant tonight and close it on Thursday, June 30th at 5 p.m.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Our next item is the Stormwater Task Force membership, alternate member, and request to work with the Mass Watershed Coalition.
I typed up something for this discussion. Currently, the Stormwater Task Force is a 7-member board, and we have 5 members. The Board of Health person was not able to, for personal reasons, was not able to continue. And the Board of Health has said they have no other members of their commission who is able to participate at this point. We do have a BOS member, myself, 1 planning board member, 1 conservation commission member, 1 citizen at large, and DPW director Roddiquins. Land use director Adam Burney is there at every meeting just to help us out, and it's been working pretty well. I would like to suggest that we change the membership requirement at this point to keep it where we are now, a 5-member board, because we have terrible quorum issues because people aren't able to make it all the time. So our May 26th meeting, we had to cancel because we didn't have a quorum, and I think maybe that was the 3rd time we were unable to meet, and it's frustrating for the volunteers who give up their time. So we would like to try going with a 5-member board for now. And since the board is set up by the Board of Selectmen, we need your approval to do that.
I don't have a problem going to 5, given the fact that they've had quorum issues, and we've had ample opportunity for people to come forward, and no one's come forward. So I don't have a problem with changing the membership from 7 to 5. So I would make a motion that we change the Stormwater Task Force from 7 members to 5 members.
Second?
Further discussion? My only discussion point is if we do have someone come forward, we don't have a vacancy if we change it to 5.
We can
Well, we
always
can,
change it.
we can,
We can
we
change it back to 7.
If it
Because
turns into
it's appointed.
if it turns into an exciting board that people are dying to be on, I would be happy to bring it back to 7.
Right.
Because there's plenty of work, we would certainly enjoy having more members, but it's just frustrating to have to, I just think about the finance committee and
Right.
how frustrating that is for them.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Now, the Stormwater Task Force has also been talking about getting some help. I've reflected on volunteers and the part of, that we have a hard time getting volunteers. And I wonder if we ask too much of our volunteers. The Stormwater Task Force is charged with a pretty big technical obligation, and we're not professionals. And I think that we need some professional assistance to get our job done. We voted at our last meeting to ask the Massachusetts Stormwater Coalition to help us out, but then I was reminded or told that if it's above $5,000, it has to go out to bid, and you need to get solicit 3 bids. So I'd like to change our, I know that every Stormwater Task Force member is in favor of getting help. I have 2 members who came tonight to support that initiative. And so what I would like to do is ask for an approval of a scope of services so that the task force may be authorized to solicit quotes not to exceed $12,000. All members voted unanimously in favor of seeking this help. Included in this scope would be assistance with achieving compliance with state and federal stormwater permitting requirements, developing a comprehensive stormwater management plan, locating state, federal, and private funding sources, as well as assistance with grant applications, developing stormwater solutions that achieve more pollutant capture for less cost, get more done for less money, enabling town boards to get on the same page in the creation and utilization of effective stormwater bylaws. Get everybody on the same page so that we're all doing what we need to do. Enabling town boards and residents to know how to prevent and repair runoff problems. Assembling educational materials and guidance about stormwater management opportunities. Creating an ongoing funding source. Perhaps determining the feasibility of establishing a stormwater utility. And I think with assistance, we could get the most out of our membership in the Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition, because there's a lot of information there.
So if I understand this, you want to put out to bid and get competitive bids for a consultant to do this kind of work?
To help us.
And you're setting a parameter that it's 12 grand is what, 12,000 is
No
what you're
more
shooting
than,
for?
no, we're thinking 10 to 12, no more than 12.
My concern is in reading, I have no problem and I understand that professional services are needed. My concern is that this is such a large scope, and I think that the tasks are very different. And my concern is that finding one consultant that can do all of these objectives. And, I'm questioning whether or not that's possible with one consultant. And then the second thing that I have a question on is achieving compliance with state and federal stormwater permitting requirements. In the past, we've had money within the DPW budget for stormwater, and we've done that through consultants. Originally, it was Earth Tech, and I'm not sure who the consultant was for the last permit. However, so we've had funding in the DPW budget specifically to meet those requirements and to provide those reports to the state. So I'm questioning whether or not there's already funding within the DPW budget for that specific task.
There is for preparing and filing the annual report.
Okay, so that one, I would question whether or not there's an overlap there.
So that we-
The
Oh, I
first
see.
task, achieving
Uh-huh.
compliance with state and federal stormwater permitting requirements. I think that it would make sense that the stormwater task force be involved in that, but I think that the funding for that may already be within another budget.
Oh, okay.
Well, the funding for preparing the report that we file now, not for
But that
requirements
report-
going
but-
forward.
Right, but that report is, I guess my question is, I would like to understand what funding is available within that budget, because when we did the last report, achieving compliance with state and federal stormwater permitting, I mean, there was a lot of requirements as for mapping and identification, and there was a great deal of work that went into the compliance with the last permit. So I'm questioning whether or not the funding that we have within the DPW budget, it's not just a matter of filling out a report and filing it. There's a lot of work and investigation that goes into submitting that report. And I don't know what fundings have already been allocated for that.
Mr. Bernie is dying to respond to your question, and then we have a public comment.
There's a couple of fine points to it. What we have, the Stormwater Task Force is charged with preparing the town for the new permit. So in 2017, July 1, there will be the issuance of a new NPDES permit. The funds in the DPW are currently for reporting on the activities comprised under the existing permit. So they're looking at the activities that the DPW does on an annual basis, reporting those back to the EPA as a compliance part of the existing permit. I think what the intention is, and a lot of the discussion at the last meeting that I was able to attend of the Stormwater Task Force, was looking at the difference between the 2003 permit and the 2017 permit, and preparing the town through their stormwater management plan on what we're currently doing, how that applies to the new permit, and what the new tasks would be. And I think that's where that compliance piece comes in. And I think that's a lot of what our discussion was, not the ongoing annual report, the preparation for the filing of the notice of intent to be considered in compliance with the permit within the first 90 days, and to understand what tasks are going to need to be done and look at assigning them. So it's sort of the first step is looking at the DPW currently. They're currently complying with the 2003 permit. Now, there's a series of there's a series of additional requirements on top of the 03 permit in the 17 permit. So just identifying what would need to be done to bring the current activities up to what would be required in the new permit.
I understand that there are new requirements. However, if you look back at the 2007 report, there were a number of recommendations within that report, I'm very familiar with it, that outlined ongoing activities that need to happen. Because, for example, all of the stormwater outfalls and dry weather inspections were not identified. So there was a recommendation in that 2007 report to continue those investigations. There was also recommendations to do dry weather inspections of those that were found to be in poor shape. So there were ongoing tasks that were identified in that 2007 report that needed to be completed.
Correct.
So I'm assuming that there is funding within the DPW budget to continue those. And my question would be whether it makes sense to engage that consultant into this process rather than engaging a new consultant to come in, because I would assume whoever we're hiring to do those reports, and I'm not sure who that is very familiar with the compliance requirements of the new permit, as well as where we are with the old permit. So all I'm saying is to go out to bid and engage another engineer. I'm not sure if that's going to be a cost-effective way to do this. It seems to me that engaging the services of either who we have now or making sure who we hire in the future is very familiar with the work that the prior consultant is doing. I'm saying that there's an overlap there.
Correct, and I think that where it's going out to bid, soliciting a bid from the person currently doing the work would be an intelligent solution. But I think the scope of work that the Stormwater Task Force is looking at may be outside of what the current contract is for the person doing that work, because they're covering the 2003 permit.
What's the first deadline for a report for the new permit? Do you know?
Well, it becomes effective July 1, 2017. We have 90 days with which to file the notice of intent. So November 1st would be when the notice of intent is due, and then the annual reporting would be based on that. And what the EPA has done in conversations with DEP, because there's talk about primacy, but that's is to look at front-loading the permit and the requirements on the planning side of things. So what a lot of the comments that were submitted to both the EPA and the DEP were about the fact that you want us to do all these things and you're not giving us any time to figure out what we need to do, how we need to do them, how we need to pay for them. So what they've kind of done is they've listened to that, they've heard it, and they've said, okay, we're still going to make you do all this stuff, but we're going to give you a little bit more time to get ready for stuff. So I would say November 1st is D-Day for filing the first thing that needs to be done for the new permit, and that would be of 2017. And that would be the notice of intent saying, we intend to comply. Here's our documents that show what we plan to do to comply. And those are the documents that the person or firm selected to do this work would be working on. And I think, we had a lot of discussion. We could try to do this in-house, but it's sort of a mixed bag. We don't necessarily have the full breadth of expertise, and bringing someone who doesn't have any skin in the game, isn't a resident, isn't an employee, isn't involved in the program, can come in and look at it from a fairly objective point of view, and that contractor would have an ability to, sort of make a judgment on where we are and how we can move forward that's without sort of any baggage. And the current contractor may be able to do that, and may be wanting to do that.
My concern again is the $12,000 is because I think in order to determine achieving compliance and to come up with that planning document that you talked about, you need to go back and look at where we are.
Correct.
And I think that $12,000 to do that, to also develop a comprehensive stormwater management plan, to also do public outreaches, to do more effective. I think all of these are great things.
Sure.
I just think that $12,000
And I
isn't
think
enough
that
money.
it's one of those things, the existing plan can be modified. So we're not reinventing the plan. We're taking the existing plan and, like master
But there are
plans.
other components.
Correct, and there are some additional components, but again, we're working within a framework and we're adding on to it. And I think that the easiest way to do this and achieve it would be to rank the items as we would with any bid and have, this is what has to get done. If you can do these other things within the budget, that will look more favorably upon it.
How did you guys come up with the $12,000? Did you look at other similar bids? Did you look at what other communities are spending on? I'm just
I think
very
I'll-
We have somebody
leave
else
that-
from the task force that
yeah.
wants to,
So Sarah Kammer. I wasn't at the last meeting. I'm part of the quorum problem occasionally. But one of the things that we're struggling with is that we have all of those things to review, which I think all of us have read everything now. We have the old permit and the new permit and the new things that are coming up. We don't need somebody to do every single piece of this. We need assistance. We're not going to have that consultant write the whole thing, make all the decisions, and do all those things. What we need is essentially a director who's extremely knowledgeable about past requirements and the current requirements, is knowledgeable about the town, which could be that previous DPW consultant, may not be, but to work with us to step through all of the components. We certainly try to do that as a committee, and one of the reasons we went and requested to 5 is so that we can approve things and get things done. But there has been a fairly thorough review, and now it would be helpful to bring somebody in who is thoroughly knowledgeable about previous requirements, thoroughly knowledgeable about future requirements, and can help us with the parts we're struggling on, but certainly not do the whole thing.
Yeah, like direct us.
Yeah.
There
And
was a
so-
lot of information in the Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition that we can, that we just joined, that we can access and take advantage of.
And so we estimated the number of hours at roughly $50 an hour of
Okay.
assistance we thought we would need.
So this isn't necessarily to submit the NOI. This is to assist, a consultant to assist the Stormwater Task Force, but we would need additional funding perhaps for the actual NOI that needs to be submitted or the first report.
I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
I guess my comment would be is that I think we have a request to do a scope of services, and you're further defining it down as we're discussing it. So this is very broad, and I think what I would like to see is, I would like to give authority to do this, but I would like to see the scope of services in the RFP before it goes out.
I
And I
would
think
agree
that
with
would
that.
clarify with the various things. So,
That makes sense.
achieving compliance with state and federal stormwater permitting requirements. Okay, you
What
could
does
be
that mean?
doing $100,000 because you can now install drainage.
Exactly.
So I think what we're struggling with is that these are all items, but as you're going to bring them
Yes.
down,
It's a nebulous scope.
because if you gave this to
Right.
somebody on the street, they're going to say, I can't do that for 12,000. So you
Exactly. No, they
actually have to
can't.
give guidance to
Yes.
them for what
Yeah,
is success at the end.
And one question that I have is, and I don't know, this is a procurement question. Can you do an RFP that asks for each item to be broken out? And then, I don't know if you can do this, but can you choose which items you're going to execute on? So say we go out to bid and after we see the RFP and it clearly defines each thing, and if we do get the responses back and we can't do all of what we put out, can we reduce it? Can we reduce the scope of services based on the funding availability?
You're talking, what you're describing is more of a bidding process than a
Okay.
request for proposals process.
Okay.
And I would just leave it at that I think that's more of a bidding process.
Okay, so I don't know what that means. I'm not a procurement
so-
person.
Well, if you want to, the difference is if you want to be able to evaluate items other than cost, you want to be able to evaluate the number of similar contracts that the person's done, their work, that sort of thing. You're looking more to to go through a request for proposals process where you're not limited just to cost. The
Okay.
best cost price.
As opposed to what this is doing is effectively, we want to hire a consultant who will help us with this, and we will use up to $12,000 worth of services from that person.
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing this turn into. And here are the topics we'd like you to cover, but it may not be all of these.
So as Mr. Ebersol said, I would like to see the scope of services, and I would like to have more information as to exactly what it is you're looking to do. I'd also like to understand what DPW is going to need to get done in order to meet that NOI date, and where we are with the funding sources for that, because I'm not sure that this is going to be. It maybe it will, but I would be
The NOI
highly
is actually
skeptical.
it's a fillable online form. So it's,
I understand that, Anna, but if you look at what's submitted, it contains a lot more than the
but
NOI.
no,
I've
actually,
done many
the
NOI.
NOI is a new form that they've put on live for this permit that the EPA has just come up with, and I think it's 3 or 4 pages, and it's fillable, and you add the documents that you've created.
Right.
So the actual submission of the NOI.
But it's the attachments to
minimal.
the NOI.
And
Just
again,
like
I
when you
think
do
that-
a filing for the Conservation Commission, it's a fillable form that's just a few fields, but then the attachments that go with it, I just did one, was 60 pages.
Correct,
So-
and I think that's what we're looking at, is narrowing down, identifying what needs to go with that and how it gets developed with this consultant. So I understand what you're saying is what's required with the NOI. Without some assistance here, we're not going to be able to identify that. So that would be part of the scope of what this person does.
I just want to make sure that we're not duplicating effort.
Yes. And I think that's why it's helpful that the DPW director is on the task force and is very sharing of his opinions.
I think what you've got is you've got a board of selectmen who support what the task force is doing, but we want to be clear on what we're signing off with the $12,000. And I
Yes.
think this is still, these are the goals of what you want to have at the end, but, assembling educational material and guidance about stormwater management opportunities, okay, that seems like that wouldn't take as much of the $50 an hour
Right.
versus some of these other items. So I know it's
Agreed,
all
Matt.
assistance with, and if it's looked as a consultant to help you, I think a job description, a date, what do you expect them to do on a weekly basis?
And I think that's
that type of
I
thing.
think
So-
that's reasonable. I think that's something that the task force can sit down and hammer out.
Right. I just, that's exactly what I'm looking for, is what is it that you're looking for this consultant to provide in more specificity?
Pretty much items 1 and 2.
But I
But
think
we'll
that we
discuss
can
it.
take those and hammer them out to more
In more details.
to more specific tasks.
But I think you have the support for the funding.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just would like to understand
And
more
that's a
about.
reasonable request.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that does that, right? Okay, splendid. I'd like to move to the appointments. We have a few 2017 appointments that are still pending. Does the town manager want to walk us through that?
Okay, so we're requesting the board appoint to the Architectural Preservation District Commission Richard McGrath for a term to expire June 30, 2019. One additional clock winder with a term to expire June 30, 2017, John Lynch. One associate to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a term to expire June 30, 2019, David Blatt. And then for a one-year term to expire June 30, 2017, Public Weighers, Richard Reynolds, Jennifer Oliveira, Brittany Woodhouse, Sarah Fitzgerald, Eric Morin, Brian Contoy, Jay Valieri, Michael Reynolds, and Robert Croto.
I would move the appointments as read.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right. We have minutes for June 7th and 14th. And then there's one in here that requires a third signature.
Mr. Chairman, just before we leave the appointments, looking at the reappointment forms that were submitted, there's a couple things that at some point I'd like to talk about. For example, the Architectural Preservation District Commission, one of the recommendations was a budget for minor operations, so I'd like to find out whether that's not something that we can provide. And we've requested this information. I think it's important we at least act on the suggestions or information that's prevented. The other thing is, you know, Mr. Blatt saying that there's more information sharing needed between boards and departments. I'd like to find out exactly what it is he's looking for, how we can better help him, and how we can better help the ZBA. Same thing with Mr. Lynch. He's recommending a group meeting. So if we can help facilitate some of these things, since we're looking at these forms.
One of the items on our planned workshop, when we get that date established, is the relationship between the Board of Selectmen and various committees and boards. And I think that, in fact, last week, the Council on Aging had a couple of recommendations to have the selectmen more involved in their meetings, et cetera, and I made note of that. So I agree. I think this is valuable data that we don't just want to let it pass by.
If we can just start tracking this so that when we do have that meeting, we can make sure we address all of these.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Okay, warrants? Payroll in the amount of $264,817.49. Payroll deduction, $35,421.43. And accounts payable in the amount of $260,978.66. Are there any action file issues? Any committee reports? Mrs. Luck.
The new school committee members have taken their seats and seem anxious to get to work. The Stormwater Task Force did not have a quorum on May 26th. We did meet on June 2nd. It has been determined there's insufficient time to prepare a 319 grant application for this cycle. We will set our sights on an application to be submitted in June 2017.
Ms. Bertram.
The only update I have is on the MPO. I believe, although my mind is jumbled right now, I believe I had related at the Wednesday, May 25th meeting of the MPO, maybe I didn't, there was discussion about 4 different scenarios were presented for the next tip, the 17 to 21 tip, and one of the scenarios that had the most traction moved the Summer Street project out to 18 and 19. So we did have a meeting on June 15th with representatives from the City of Leominster, the City of Fitchburg. The town manager was there, as well as Jack Rodequins, myself, and Trish Donegan from VHB. It was a good meeting. We covered what the status of the project is and what needs to happen. And you know, initially we talked about, okay, if we move it out, the advertisement would still be in the same calendar year. But one of the issues is that would move the construction cycle out a full year. You know, Leominster is doing significant work in Leominster on their pavement. As you all know, Fitchburg has done significant improvements to their water mains, and the roadway is in terrible shape, and it continues to deteriorate. So after the discussion, we all felt that it was important that we try to maintain it in the 17 tip. And you know, one of the biggest questions was whether or not we could conceivably be ready. The worst thing that could happen is, at least from my perspective as the one advocating for it, is that we advocate for it in the 17 tip and then we don't execute because we're not ready, because we consume all of the funding for the region with this project. So after the discussion, Trish Domigan is confident that we will be ready. One of the big things that we're waiting for is the NEPA review, which we can't go forward with any easement acquisitions until we get that. So that's what's really holding us up right now. It's expected to be returned in July. So hopefully that will happen. We're also waiting for a proposal for the 100% design cost, because at the next MPO meeting, which is the 29th, it was urged by Mass DOT and Federal Highway that we have as much detailed information about where the project is and the status, the funding mechanism, and the support of the communities available at that meeting, so that we can present a very clear outline of how this project is going to move forward. So we had requested from Trish the 100% design cost, and I don't know if you've received that yet, Carrie?
We have not.
Okay, that's important, because, and I thought she said she was going to have it for us by the end of the week. Did I misunderstand that? Or, well, if we don't get it, if we could follow up with her, because what both Leominster and Fitchburg and us is, until we know what the cost is, we need to determine where that appropriation is going to come from. All of us felt most likely it would come from our Chapter 90 funding, but knowing exactly how much money we're talking about, as Carrie asked, is it tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands? Mm-hmm. So we're waiting for the design cost from Trish. The other issue is getting an appraiser on board to determine the appraisal of the easements, and she did reach out to the appraiser, and he had a number of questions regarding the project, and I didn't see her response. I saw
She did
his
respond.
okay, I saw
Yep, she did
his questions. So we're moving forward, and my hope is that before the meeting next week, we have all of this information put together and clearly in a clear format so that we can present. We have received assurance that the mayor from Fitchburg will be in attendance, and we know we will have representatives from Leominster there, and as many representatives from Lunenburg as possible should be in attendance.
What's the date of that meeting
The
again?
29th at 1 o'clock. And the goal of that meeting will be to release the draft tip. So based on the meeting on the 25th, the objective is to get the tip done and out at that meeting. So the decision will be made.
No report.
Okay, from the building reuse, I just wanted to mention that we, the request for the marketability for the reuse of buildings downtown, the first response, we didn't get any bids within the dollar limit we set, but we got several people who said they wanted to bid or wanted to explore it further, but they missed the deadline. So we rebid that and extended the date out a bit. And we will adjourn, we will convene the Building Reuse Committee once we get some responses. So that's within the next couple of weeks, I believe.
Okay, what's the deadline for the responses?
I don't have it off the top of my
Okay.
head.
That's okay, it's not that important.
Yeah,
okay.
it's a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I was going to go to the town manager reports and department
Well, I
reports.
can't do two things.
I know.
It's okay. If it's a couple weeks,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about the same time period we had on the other, which was a
Okay.
short window.
July 18th.
Okay.
So July 18th is the response date,
Yes.
with a delivery about a month beyond what the original one, so it's still the fall.
Okay.
Okay. Any town manager reports or department reports?
I do not have any.
Okay. Before I ask for a motion to go into executive session, I just wanted to mention that we don't meet next week. We will next meet on July 5th. Would like to wish everybody a happy Independence Day holiday and ask if there are any public comments from the board. Any public comments from the public? Okay, I'd like a motion to enter executive session, not to return to general session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair declares so. And we will be discussing the Unitil 2008 ice storm matter and to discuss a land damages claim.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, Mrs. Luck,
Aye.
Ms. Bertram,
Aye.
Mr. Ebersol,
Aye.
and I for myself. Good night, everybody.